What's up, Keymakers? You wake up, drive 30 minutes to work as an employee at your 9 to 5, which you hate, and all you can think about at work is providing for your family, starting your business, moving it forward, changing the world, and in the process, living the life of freedom and fulfillment you've always imagined. This podcast helps you transition from employee to entrepreneur. My name is Bradley G. Smith, and welcome to the Keymaker Nation podcast. So I'm almost home, and I had a couple more thoughts here. I wanted to share this in a different episode. My thoughts were related to my recent move to get myself out there a little bit more, make sure I'm sharing more content, and specifically that includes, putting myself on camera. And, sort of in the past, something I wanted to stay away from. And I wanted to talk about mindset related to that. And, I didn't really know what the blockers were to keep me from, that were basically keeping me from wanting to get on camera. And I'm not sure I still 100% know them. But there were a couple of different things that I had to do to get my mind right in order to put myself out there, be on camera a little bit more. Some of it is related directly to some of the podcasts and the YouTube channels I've been watching and listening to recently. So I wanted to share those with you. One of them is related to somebody I follow on YouTube. His name's Dan Locke. He's sort of an entrepreneur and a biz guy who does high ticket sales. And one thing that he does is public speaking, and he goes around and speaks publicly on business and entrepreneurship and high ticket sales. And so one of the things that he shared on YouTube was related to that little voice inside your head that's always keeping you from doing something, right? Now, sometimes that little voice can be good because in some cases, it's what keeps us safe. It's what keeps us from making bad decisions, like walking out in front of an oncoming car, or, fill in the blank with whatever, like, for instance, if you're on stage, walking off the stage, right? So that little voice sort of like keeps you in check with all things. But sometimes we give it too much power, and we let it talk us out of doing things that we might think could embarrass us or put us in a position to be judged. And look up the YouTube video from Dan Locke and the little voice in your head. And he really helped me set my mind straight on that. So basically what it comes down to is listening to your inner voice and saying, hey, is my inner voice basically telling me I can't do it? I'm not going to be successful with this. Somebody's going to judge me. Somebody's going to put me out there in the wrong way. And you listen to it. What it comes down to is you listen to it, you hear what it has to say, and then you basically say, is that all you have? And then you move forward. And so, that was such a helpful piece of advice. And that's sort of what's gotten me to the point where I feel like I can, do this as of late. And the other piece, I'm getting close to home, so I'm going to park here in a minute. The other piece was related to Russell Brunson and Gary Vaynerchuk. If you're familiar, if you do any following anybody in business right now, and you listen for business advice online, then both of those guys are up there in terms of business advice, especially for entrepreneurs. But they both cover this topic, and the topic is related to sort of judging people who are more successful than you. And so what I've had to sort of come to terms with recently is one of the reasons I've had a hard time with putting myself on camera and get myself out there is related to just sort of the judgment that I pass on others who are more successful than me. And basically, I do things in my mind to tear them down in some way, say they're not as good as me, instead of being excited for them and actually letting that inspire me. Instead, I find ways to tear them down and figure out, why they're lucky or something like that. But really what that does is, let me see if I can say this correctly. What that really does is it removes any sort of blame that I can put on myself from myself. And so it removes any responsibility that I can take in any situation where I thought I should have been successful, but I wasn't. It makes me explain my way out of it. And so instead of, taking my lumps, so to speak, and figuring out why something didn't work the way I thought it should have, and making sure I can apply that in the future, I always explain my way out of it. And I do that when other people are successful too. I explain, oh yeah, they're successful because X, Y, Z. And instead of saying, wow, that's impressive, what did they do? Let me reverse engineer it. And how can I learn from their success and make sure I'm successful too? And I think part of that is, like coming to that realization is, maybe I'm not as far along as I thought I would be at this point in my life in terms of success and business. Now, yeah, guys, I'm hugely successful. I'm not complaining about that. I think Gary Vaynerchuk talks a lot about that as well. Gary V talks a lot about that as well in terms of like, we are hugely successful, most of us, and we have nothing to complain about. So I'm not sitting here complaining about any of that. I've got a wonderful family and wife and kids, and I've got a roof over my head and food on the table. So I'm very thankful for that and grateful for that. But I also want more. I'm refusing to settle. And I think part of that is just my drive for somewhat, I have a little bit of a competitive nature. And I think part of it is just a drive to, play this game called life and business and do my best in whatever I'm doing. So anyways, guys, that's pretty much it. Figure out what the inner voice inside of your head is saying, why it's preventing you from doing it. Ask it, is that all you have? And then move forward in confidence. And then also, stop criticizing. This is speaking to me. Stop criticizing and start learning from those who are more successful than me. So hopefully some of those can apply to you guys as well. And yeah, I'm excited about that. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Hey guys, don't forget to join me in the Keymaker Nation private Facebook group. If you're listening to the podcast via iTunes, please rate and review. And if you're listening via YouTube, don't forget to thumbs up and subscribe. And as always, thanks for listening.